Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're putting on the protective gear.
Yes.
Not just to avoid stings, but really to protect the integrity of the entire hive. We are plunging into the absolute fundamentals of apiary sanitation.
This deep dive is so essential. We're really trying to take you past the point of just, keeping bees alive
Right.
and help you become a truly informed apiarist. Because the reality is, this global health crisis for honeybees, it often starts right in the apiary, from management decisions.
Absolutely. Our mission today is a bit of a shortcut. We want to give you the knowledge to spot health problems really early.
At their most reversible stage.
Exactly. Long before it turns into a catastrophic colony collapse.
Yeah.
And to start, we have to talk about how we define health. It's not just something you see, is it?
That's the key distinction. Health is a complete state of well-being. And an experienced beekeeper, they rely on more than just sight. They know how a healthy hive smells.
The aroma.
Yes. A healthy colony has this distinct, sweet, earthy smell. It's a mix of honey, wax, propolis. If you lift that lid and you smell anything sour or moldy or chemical, that is often the very first sign that something is profoundly wrong.
So if the smell changes, you need to act. Okay, if early detection is the mission, let's jump into what our sources call the most surprising danger.
The ignorant beekeeper.
Right. Why is misusing medication such a massive threat to the whole industry?
It all boils down to one word.
That means
Residues.
Yeah.
Chemical residues from antibiotics or acaricides, if you use them improperly, they don't just disappear. They saturate the honey. They embed themselves in the wax.
And the global market has zero tolerance for that.
Zero. It treats chemical residue like a plague.
And the consequences are severe. We're talking huge economic penalties.
Oh, absolutely. Look at the examples. Argentina, back in 2004. They were exporting huge amounts of honey.
Right.
But samples got flagged for contamination with nitrofurans. These are synthetic antibiotics. And it happened because beekeepers were using cheap vet products.
For other animals, not for bees.
Exactly. Things meant for cattle or poultry, not formulas tested and approved for honeybees.
A product for a pig is not a product for a bee. But this isn't just a regional problem. I mean, think about the China case in 2003.
The European Union completely rejected entire containers of Chinese honey at the port of Hamburg.
What did they find?
Chloramphenicol. It's an older, powerful antibiotic that's been linked to, in some rare cases, severe bone marrow problems in humans. It's highly toxic.
So the EU penalized China for 2 years, just blocked trade.
A staggering economic hit. And this is where the story gets a bit darker.
And raises some serious questions about the supply chain.
After being penalized, China reportedly moved to a pretty controversial method to get around the rules.
What did they do?
They allegedly started something called honey washing. So if a batch of honey had detectable residues, the idea was to mix or, homogenize that contaminated honey with huge quantities of clean honey.
So dilution is the solution to pollution.
Essentially, yes. They dilute the residues down below the minimum level for detection in international tests.
Wow.
And then they reportedly sold this bulk honey through other markets, sometimes using countries like India as a transit point to hide the origin.
That is genuinely unsettling. So what does this mean for you, the listener, especially if you're keeping bees somewhere that isn't a huge global exporter?
Well, our sources pointed to places like Peru, for example, where national honey exports aren't massive.
The government has less incentive for rigorous testing.
Precisely. So if the government isn't driving regular, sophisticated testing, then your awareness of who is managing your local honey becomes critical.
And beyond the human risk, this chemical misuse creates a vicious cycle right inside the hive. Resistance.
Absolutely. If you use acaricides improperly, if you leave them in too long, or use the wrong dose, you're not killing all the Varroa mites. You are essentially creating super mites.
You're fast-tracking their resistance.
You're fast-tracking it. The same goes for bacteria and antibiotics. We have to use specific products, authorized by sanitary authorities, and follow the protocols. So let's talk about how these problems, whether they're chemical or biological, actually spread once they're out there.
Right. There are 5 main ways disease gets transmitted in the apiary.
And some of these are surprisingly sneaky. Let's start with the drones.
With male bees.
The drones, or zanganos, they're the ultimate biological Trojan horses.
Why is that?
They lack the Nosemosis gland. That's the gland that produces the scent signature for a colony.
So they don't have a password to get in.
They don't have a password. They can walk into any colony, completely undetected, and just move between apiaries carrying viruses and mites with them.
That's incredible. Okay, the second spreader is something we usually celebrate. Swarms.
Right. A big spring swarm is a great sign. But you have to be really cautious about emergency swarms.
The ones that happen outside of the main season.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those bees might be fleeing their original home because of a huge sanitary problem, like an overwhelming mite load. So any swarm you collect needs to be treated with suspicion.
And quarantined.
Absolutely.
Third, the dark side of competition. Robbing.
Robbing, or pillaging. It happens when there's no nectar flow. Desperate, strong colonies will start invading weaker, often diseased neighbors to steal their food.
And that just spreads pathogens across the entire bee yard.
In a hurry, yes.
Equipment contamination is another big one. And our sources specifically warned against wooden feeders.
Wooden feeders are they're porous. They're incredibly difficult to sanitize properly. Pathogens get trapped deep in the wood fibers.
So plastic is the way to go.
Universally recommended. You can easily clean them, disinfect them in a bleach solution. It's much safer.
And the final method is the most direct. Just moving live material around.
This is a huge risk. Moving bees, frames, queens. It's so risky that countries have strict regulations. The U.S., for instance, restricts imports from countries with Acarapysosis tracheal mites.
So you have to verify the health of anything new you bring in.
You must.
Okay, so given all those risks, the practical prevention strategy is something called a lazaretto apiary.
Yes. Think of it like a quarantined ICU for your bees.
An intensive care unit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Any sick colony, any new swarm, any package of bees you're not sure about, they go straight to this separate, isolated location, and they stay there until you can verify they're healthy.
And for a small-scale beekeeper, that doesn't have to be acres away, right?
Not at all. It just needs to be a separate location. Ideally 100 meters from your main apiary, just enough distance to prevent drifting and robbing. If you skip this step, one sick hive can easily take down all your healthy ones. All right, let's shift from transmission to diagnosis. And we have to start with the big one, Nosemosis.
It's often called the silent killer because the symptoms are so ambiguous. It's a protozoan that attacks the adult bee's stomach.
The ventriculus, yeah. And the symptoms, diarrhea, loss of flight, a bloated abdomen. They're so nonspecific, sometimes they don't even appear.
But inside, the bee's digestive system is being shredded.
It is, which stresses the whole colony and drastically shortens the bee's lifespan.
Okay, but there's a fantastic hands-on DIY diagnosis you can do in the field. How do you check the gut?
You gently pull the abdomen and carefully extract the intestine. A healthy bee's intestine, it should be yellowish.
A healthy color.
Right, but if you pull it out and it's whitish, milky, and maybe has a slightly sour odor, that's a presumptive nosema diagnosis. That milky color is a massive buildup of spores.
That's a great field test, but a definitive diagnosis still needs a microscope to see those spores.
It does.
And since the standard antibiotic, fumagillin, is pretty restricted now due to residue concerns, what are the alternatives?
The strategy now is more about supporting the bee's digestive system, so natural aids like oregano extract.
Oregano.
Yes, about 0.6 milliliters per liter of syrup, a few times a week.
Wait.
And rosemary extract, too. They aren't cures, but they're powerful digestive aids. They help the bee repair that damaged gut lining.
Now we get to the diseases that really strike fear into beekeepers. Foulbrood. It is critical to know the difference between the two types. Let's start with European Foulbrood, EFB.
EFB is caused by Melissococcus pluton. It's serious, but it's manageable because it's non-sporulating. The dead larvae turn yellow and soft, and the bees can actually clean them out.
And then there's American Foulbrood, AFB. This is the terrifying one. And the difference is the spores.
The difference is monumental. AFD is highly sporulating, and those spores, they can survive for 35 years or more.
Yeah.
In the wood, in the wax.
35 years?
Yes. Diagnosis is usually confirmed with the ropiness test. You stick a little twig into the dead, gooey larva, and if you pull out a sticky, glowy thread, that's AFB.
And with that kind of spore viability, the standard procedure is grim.
Where it's confirmed, it's often mandatory burning. The entire colony, the frames, the bees, the boxes, everything.
Wow. Okay, lastly, there's Chalkbrood, a fungal infection.
Ascosphaera apis. The larvae die, and they harden into these little dry, white, chalky things. There's no effective medication.
So management is the cure.
Management is the cure. Better ventilation, dry ground, and critically, you never, ever reproduce a queen from a colony that's had Chalkbrood. You breed for tolerance.
All right, let's pivot to the main global challenge for every beekeeper today. The Varroa destructor mite.
Understanding its life cycle is the only way to beat it.
It's all about its dual-phase biology.
Absolutely. First, you have the phoretic phase. That's when the mite is just riding on the adult bee. It feeds on the bee's protein reserves, hiding in the abdominal joints.
And then comes the deadly part.
The reproductive phase. This only happens inside a capped brood cell. The female mite gets in just before the bees cap the cell, and then she starts to lay her eggs.
And this biology leads us straight to a key control method, drone brood trapping. Why do the mites love the drones so much?
It's a massive preference. They're attracted by the drone larvae's pheromones. But more importantly, drones have a longer pupal stage.
More time.
More time for the Varroa mite to reproduce. She can lay up to 7 eggs in one drone cell. So beekeepers use this. They put in a frame of drone foundation, let the mites congregate there.
And then pull it out and destroy it before they emerge.
Exactly before that massive mite bomb hatches.
What are some visual signs that mites are there, even before you test?
Look for what's called bald brood. That's pupa with their heads exposed because the bees are trying to uncap the cell and get the mite out.
Okay.
And another great sign of a strong colony is finding mutilated Varroa mites on the bottom board. If you see mites with missing legs, that means your bees have strong grooming behavior. They're physically biting the mites off each other.
But those are just clues. You have to test. What's the critical number for infestation?
The threshold is generally considered 5% infestation or higher, and we have 2 main ways to get that count.
First, the method that doesn't kill the bees, the powdered sugar shake.
Right. You collect about 280 bees, shake them with powdered sugar in a jar, and then sift the sugar out. The sugar makes the mites fall off, and the bees are fine.
And the second method is more precise,
But you have to sacrifice the bees. That's the detergent or alcohol wash.
Mm-hmm.
You collect 250 to 300 bees in soapy water or alcohol. Gives you a highly accurate number.
So once you have that number, what's the strategy? When do you treat?
Timing is everything. You treat when there's little or no nectar flow and minimal brood because the mites hide in the cap cells.
You have to rotate your chemicals.
You must rotate active ingredients, fluvalinate, amitraz to prevent resistance, and you absolutely must respect the withdrawal period. Treatment has to finish at least a month before the next honey flow.
We need to pause here for a moment on a big safety issue. Oxalic acid.
This is vital. It's a powerful chemical. If you are heating glycerin to dissolve the acid crystals for pads, you must use a thermometer. Never go above 60 to 65 degrees Celsius.
And what about sublimation when you vaporize the acid?
Sublimation is probably the best method for even dispersion, but it is extremely dangerous. That vapor is corrosive. You must wear a specialized acid vapor respirator.
A cloth mask won't do it.
A cloth mask will do absolutely nothing to protect your lungs. Do not compromise on your PPE with this.
And a final quick warning on thymol treatments.
Thymol is effective, but watch the weather. High temperatures can cause it to vaporize too quickly. That sudden rush of chemical odor can cause the whole colony to just abscond.
They just leave.
They swarm away. So you need moderation and careful temperature control.
This has been a huge amount of ground to cover, but it's about moving from just being a hobbyist to being a truly informed apiarist.
Right.
The real skill isn't guessing a disease from a blurry photo on your phone. It's about knowing the systems, the right diagnostic steps, and the bigger picture.
Exactly. If you see dead larvae, the amateur thinks, oh, it must be Foulbrood. The informed apiarist stops and asks the crucial situational questions first. What's the bee population like? What are the food reserves? What's the temperature? Is there a nectar flow on right now?
Because so often management problems like the bees are just starving or there's poor ventilation can look a lot like a severe disease.
They can mimic sanitary issues and confuse even experienced beekeepers. That deeper layer of awareness, connecting the hive's internal state to the world outside. That's the fundamental difference.
So the goal is always to seek out proven methods.
And base your decisions on actual diagnostic counts, not just on what someone told you might work.
So before you grab that medication, ask yourself, have I actually counted the mites or am I just guessing? Keep learning and keep your bees healthy.